And today, our gospel reading is from John, the first chapter, starting with verse 43. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." And when Jesus saw Nathanael coming towards him, he said to him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." And Nathanael asked him, "Where did you get to know me?" And Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." And Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." And Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." Here ends our reading. Please be seated. Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all, as I've already said, and today I get to share a message with you, so let me pray. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing to you, my Lord, my rock, and my Redeemer. Amen. All right, so when my guys were little, one of my guys is here. When my guys were little, they came running to me, super excited. "Mom, you have got to see this coolest bug we found on the screen door." And I was like this, "Nope, yuck, that's gross, kill it." And they were like, no, you have to come and see it. And they pleaded with me, and I said, okay. And so I went down to see it, and much to my awe and surprise, there was a praying mantis, like an enormous praying mantis on the screen door. And it was not your average fly or yellow jacket, right? So immediately my attitude changed. I'm like, don't kill it. And so even a person who doesn't like bugs has to admit the sheer coolness and superiority of the praying mantis, right? I mean, not to mention, since the 1950s, there has been a rumor circulating that killing a praying mantis carries a fine. I'm here to tell you that killing a creature that looks as though it's on its knees praying might sound at the very least immoral. It is, in fact, not against the law. So just so you all know, it's cruel, but it's not against the law. But seriously, I mean, this bug is magnificent, right? So in any case, I was glad that my boys urged me to come and see it. And I was convinced at that moment that, so much so that I have been on the hunt ever since and in awe of these exotic, tropical, and even sometimes cannibalistic bugs ever since. So it's a cool thing. My mind was changed. So Jesus lived a life of invitational discipleship. He finds others, he gathers them in, and they in turn imitate the same discipleship as their hearts are changed by him, and each finds another and asks another to come and see. So how do you respond when God asks you to come and see? Well, in our gospel today, having just arrived, invited Andrew and Peter to go to Galilee with him. Jesus found Philip. He finds another. And then this next disciple, Philip, finds another. He finds Nathanael. And Philip, filled with excitement, personal testimony here, says to Nathanael, "We have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote about, Jesus, the son of Joseph from Nazareth." And what does Nathanael do? So I picture this in my mind, in my house also. I'm sorry, I just have to do it this morning, but this is a copyrighted Vanderzyden thing. That Josh would come maybe to Joel and say, like, "This is the coolest thing." And then what does Joel do? Right, like that. That is like a copyrighted thing in our house. And that's pretty much what Nathanael just said. What good can come from Nazareth? Just like that. And because honestly, Nazareth was like 4 miles away from where he lived, and there was some bad blood there. But he questioned this, like he was very understanding of the Old Testament, but he wondered what in the Old Testament what so great could have come from Nazareth, because it wasn't even mentioned in the Old Testament. And there was a Roman army garrison there, and probably poor attitudes, bad reputations, bad religion, etc. But Philip didn't give up. He responded very simply, and he said, "Come and see. See for yourself." And he imitated Jesus' methods right there. So because Nathanael was a spiritually reformed man of the Old Testament faith, Jesus played into that, and he saw something in him, and he said to him something very meaningful, that he was an Israelite indeed, and that no deceit could be found in him. And why is this important? Well, Jesus used this little word play on Israel, which was the new name given to Jacob in the Old Testament, and Jacob is the patriarch of the Jews. So of course, Nathanael was an exemplary man of Jacob's faith, not his deceit, but of his faith. And so Nathanael at this moment has an epiphany of faith, which will soon include Jesus as the Messiah, because Jesus saw something in him that he didn't tell him about himself. Jesus just knew it because he was Jesus. He was the Lord. He had supernatural knowledge of people and events. And if Nathanael had not listened, if Nathanael had not gone and see for himself and stuck to his prejudice about Nazareth and Jesus without investigating it further, he would have missed the Messiah. That's a big deal. So in simple, sincere faith, Nathanael changes his entire understanding of Jesus. He calls him Rabbi, which means teacher, the Son of God, King of Israel, and Jesus praises his faith. And the new disciple believed. He believed merely because Jesus saw something in him without being present. But Jesus says to him, "You think that's good? You ain't seen nothing yet. You will see greater things," which is both a prophecy and a promise, which refers to the miracles to come, because the very next reading we move into the wedding at Cana and the water to wine, all the way up to his resurrection. Prophecy and promise. So then Jesus goes on to say in the passage, "Very truly," or in other versions you would hear, "truly, truly." This, interestingly, appears like 25 times in John. Truly, truly. Always spoken by Christ, and it introduces an important, earnest announcement that stresses Jesus' unique authority. So like when someone repeats something, they want you to know this. This is what Jesus says. He says, "Truly, truly, like Jacob's ladder," which they would have been familiar with Jacob's dream about the ladder, that mediated between heaven and earth, Jesus will be humanity's access to God and God's communication with humanity. And as unique God-man, Jesus would be that ladder between heaven and earth, giving them spiritual insight into Jesus' true nature and his purpose for coming. So I'm always delighted. That kind of unpacks that reading, but I'm always delighted when I read about the disciples acting very much like we would, right? Can anything good come out of Nazareth? That's like a typical question, but you could fill in the blank here. Can anything good come out of COVID? Can anything good come out of our current political situation? Can anything good come out of an illness, a divorce, a difficult job, my mistakes? We could go on and on with the disappointing tragedies of life. What good can come out of that, you ask? Very much like Nathanael. But God's word encourages us to open our eyes, to experience an epiphany of faith like Nathanael experiences. And it urges us to go and investigate, come and see. God says, don't let your prejudice or someone else's prejudice or stereotypes about Christ or the church cause you or them to miss his power and his love. This is our invitation, our invite to others as well, to come and see who Jesus really is. Jesus finds not one, not two, but 3 and 4, and eventually more disciples. He is not interested in solo spirituality or lone believers. He invites and he asks us to do the same, to find ourselves in Jesus' community together. We need Jesus. We need others. We need community. God in his word, in his son Jesus, in his people, in the world, his world, invites us to come and see what is good. He has waiting for us Jesus' own method of ministry of invitational evangelism, right? He wants us to follow him like disciples follow their rabbi, closely watching, listening, and imitating what their teacher does. And then when we do that, when we engage in that with him, we are free to engage in invitational ministry, both investigating and accepting the invitation to follow and inviting others to do the same. This is the pattern of evangelism and discipleship that we're called to imitate. And like Philip, when we see where God is and we point it out to others, our personal testimony, you've got to see this, will bring people to Christ. And Christ will do the heavy lifting from there. We bring him in. He'll take care of the rest. Maybe you're asking, can anything good come out of Nazareth still? Or those other things in life? How do we see the good that God is doing in the midst of the hard things in life? Jesus is the answer, because Jesus knows us as well. Before Philip found Nathanael, and without being physically present, Jesus' divine awareness of Nathanael's heart brought about Nathanael's immediate faith in him as Israel's Messiah. And like Jesus knew about Nathanael's heart, I am confident that he knows us. He knows your heart, and he knows my heart fully. And if we're honest, we feel fully comfortable with Jesus knowing our whole heart, right? Right. But maybe we don't all feel that way, right? Maybe we're not quite as honest as we would like to be. And if we're not, we are sinners. We might feel a little uncomfortable with Jesus knowing us that well. But good news, sinners, good news. God knows the real you. He knows what triggers you. He knows your fears. He knows what angers you. He knows your weakness, and he wants you to follow him anyway. We cannot hide or pretend to be something we're not to God, because none of us is perfect. We are all sinners, and he knows it. And he loves us enough that he sent his son as a substitute to pay the price for all of our imperfections and to take the sin penalty and allow us full access to him in heaven. And what about this access? Jesus is our line of communication. He points this out when he refers to Jacob's dream story. These disciples would have been familiar with this passage from Genesis 28, where Jacob has this extraordinary encounter with the Lord while he's sleeping on a stone. That's what I feel like I do every night when I wake up in the morning. But anyway, he's sleeping on a stone, and he has a dream, and he's seeing a ladder. It's reaching to heaven. There's angels going up and down it, and the Lord's standing at the top, and he's giving him the blessing and the promise that he has promised to him. And Jesus here says, in other words, you think that knowing you is amazing? That ain't nothing. And he shares this vision in a brand new way, that he would be the mediator between heaven and earth. And Jesus himself is the answer to access to God himself for each and every one of us. So are you still asking, can anything good come from Nazareth? Just a direct line to God, that's all. Through Jesus, no big deal. That's a big thing. So how do we get there? How do we know that, and how do we invite others to that? We come and see for ourselves. We let Jesus find us where we are, in the difficult places in our lives, as messy and awful as they are, and we accept the invitation of Jesus to come and see what he has to offer. We follow him closely, we listen, we imitate all that he does. And then very importantly, like Jesus, we invite others to come and see. And perhaps that starts as simply as listening compassionately to someone who's in pain, or listening openly to someone who has a different opinion than you. Or it looks like inviting someone to church, or to watch with you online, or to study the Word, or to share a meal with you. It looks like holding a hand and inviting someone to come and see the Jesus that we have come to know, and knows us inside and out, and loves us anyway. What good can come from Nazareth? Come and see. You ain't seen nothing yet. This is